Seahawks fans, wherever you may be, thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, Seahawk fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers right after the game, Monday Night Football. Seattle prevails 24-3 in New York. Seahawks were dominant on defense. The offense really failed to get anything going consistently, but the defense kind of came through in this game and carried this team to victory. It was a fun game to watch. You'd mentioned in our previous podcast, previewing this game, that this might be a stress-free game to watch, and it turned out it was. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more out of this offense, but we did enough to get out of there with the double-digit victory that we both predicted. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing good. This was a good game. Like, I know that you can go through and you can nitpick the offense quite a bit. I think that the Geno injury and the offensive line mess, and there's some different things in there that created this offensive performance, but also part of it was that they were just in control of the game, so they were content to run the ball, eat the clock, shorten the game. So I feel like that if they needed to go down and drive for points, they could have been more aggressive.
I think they could have been more aggressive. The defense was playing well enough. This is the game that you could have gone for it more on fourth down. You could have taken some shots down the field. The Giants ended up with a couple sacks. They did have some other pressures, no doubt about it. We couldn't really get in sync as far as our run game was concerned all night, although we did finish with some nice yardage, and both backs,
121 rushing yards. Yeah.
Charbonnet and Walker ran the ball effectively as far as their averages were concerned. I think Charbonnet had over 6 yards a carry, and Ken Walker was about 4.8. And I thought both had nice, effective runs to extend drives. We were only 3 for 12, though, on third down conversions on offense, and we allowed 6 of 16 on defense. But the big story out of this game, Keith, is the pass rush. Seattle only came into this game with 6 sacks total, left this game with 17 sacks on the season.
Yeah.
Right?
11 sacks in a game.
Yeah, like 11 sacks.
I mean, that's like, I mean, I don't want to say it's unheard of, but man, is it impressive and rare. And you just go down the list of it, there's a lot of different guys that got sacks. I mean, Bobby Wagner had 2, Devin Witherspoon had 2, Jordan Brooks had 2, Nuwasu had 2, Mario Edwards had 1, Miles Adams had 1, Boye Mafe had 1, Cameron Young had 1.
Jordan Brooks, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right, this isn't like in the Chargers game this weekend where you saw Khalil Mack get 6 in a game. This was a just thumping by the entire defense, just imposing their will on the Giants offense. And I mean, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, 11 sacks. Devin Witherspoon is probably going to be the lead. Well, if not him, then will be Khalil Mack because of the 6 sacks. But Witherspoon's 2
complete
sacks,
game,
6 tackles, and a pick 6. That was what, 98
plus
yards.
3 quarterback hits as well, in addition to those things. So,
like if it wasn't done in a game where a guy had 6 sacks in a week, that would have been Defensive Player of the Week material. I would say at this point it's probably second. But damn, that was a performance, and by a guy playing his 3rd NFL game.
Yeah, no, it's great. You know, the defense really came through for the Seattle in this game, because Daniel Jones was still 27 of 34 after all of that. He was 27 of 34 for 203 yards, had those 2 picks. But my goodness, if he was allowed to have time, his completion percentage was still way up there. He just didn't get the ball down the field. He had 2 completions or 2 attempts over 10 yards in this game.
Yeah.
And everything else, he just didn't have time.
That's how you end up with 27 of 34, is that you're
That's
throwing
true.
everything
It's true.
for 2 yards.
I mean, you got to take what the defense has given him, and the defense didn't give him anything.
Yeah. He also had 10 rushes for 66 yards, and 3 of those rushes were for 1 yard or less, meaning that they came from him avoiding a sack. This easily could have been 14 sacks if those.
Yeah, Cameron Young almost had one there in the fourth quarter.
If guys get to him one step sooner, so he doesn't quite make it back to the line of scrimmage, it counts as a sack. And I mean, that's how close they were. It was, that was an impressive performance. But it wasn't just the pass rush. I mean, Matt Breida, their running back, 14 carries for 30 yards. That's a 2.1 average.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the backup, 4 carries for 9 yards is a 2.2. They stopped the run. They forced Daniel Jones to throw the ball. And with that offensive line being as bad as it is, the fact that Daniel Jones isn't good and all of that, like, it was just, I mean, the Giants scored 3 points despite having the ball for 36 minutes.
Yeah. So what did you think about the Witherspoon interception?
Oh, that was nice. Like, I mean, it was, Daniel Jones trying to get the ball out of his hands super quick because of the pass rush, and it was ended up being off target.
Witherspoon had that diagnosed big time.
Yeah, it was slightly off target, but Witherspoon knew it was coming, and he just like stepped in the lane and just took it, and then took it all the way back. But he knew what was coming. Like, you could see it. They're running that slant play. Daniel Jones is trying to get it out with like a 1-step drop practically, and Witherspoon was just sitting on it. And I mean, that's how you get those plays.
He had a good game. I mean, man, goodness gracious, he had a good game. What a complete player. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like when Adams
too.
Reek Woolen did have a good game. It was very solid. Almost had a pick. When Adams went out with the concussion, we can talk about that in a little bit if we want. Mm-hmm. I thought Devin Witherspoon took it to another level. It's almost like he said, dude, I got you. I know you're not coming back in, but I'm going to run everything that we were going to run for you. We're going to run it through me, and I'm going to have a great game. And you could just kind of feel that. At least I did anyway. And after that, Devin Witherspoon was everywhere. He had, he had some blitzes off the edge, got to the quarterback in that way, almost had a third, had 3 quarterback hits, all the tackles, the physicality, the pick 6, Keith. I mean, my goodness. And there were a lot of great players on defense in this game, but Devin Witherspoon stood out like you said, could be defensive player of the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what happens.
He looked like a star. And
looked like a star.
I mean,
Jalen Carter lovers, line up, because now it's the Witherspoon show. So he's going to get an opportunity. I think he's going to end up being a great player. I mean, when you really take a look at who has a greater impact on a game week in, week out, I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. Both good players. I think what Witherspoon's got his head on right. And so there's less likely to be suspensions and other legal problems or any of that kind of stuff. So I think in the end, like, the team decided they didn't trust Carter, and who cares? Witherspoon's been great. So yeah, it's just been it's been a fantastic draft pick so far. And he did all of that. Like, he's been working out at the outside corner, and because of getting everyone back and all the slot guys being hurt, They just moved him over and put him in the slot, and let Michael Jackson be on the outside. And man, it turned out good for Seattle. I mean, that's an impressive player in a position where had an opportunity to really impact a game like this, and just completely took over in some ways.
Everything in this game is going to make Pete Carroll smile and be really happy, except for those third down conversions, and the ability to continue drives and score points when opportunities exist. If he was to dial up a formula to win a game, this would be it. The defensive sacks, the turnovers, the pick six, just the exciting big plays, as well as not allowing big plays over the top, not allowing any explosive plays in the running game. Daniel Jones did pick up some third downs with his legs a few different times. We talked about that a couple days ago, that he could have, some rushing in this game, but it really wasn't a factor. It wasn't an impact, didn't impact the scoreboard for sure. And then, their runners, Matt Breida and Robinson and so forth, they were really contained, for the most part.
Oh yeah.
And on their defense, they didn't allow Dexter Lawrence and McKinney, and Kayvon Thibodeau had 2 sacks, but that was it. He didn't really have any other impact in this game. And so
the one almost pick six that he had,
yeah,
that was a spectacular
I
play.
thought Geno was kind of off today.
He was off today, and it started at the beginning, but it didn't help when he got got injured. And then it was like his mind was not on what he was doing. He was going over to the other team to
I didn't like that.
And that between plays, and it was like, okay, that's not necessary. And he's still like going over and pointing at people later in the game. It's like his head wasn't where it needed to be. And I think that was part of the problem on offense. I did like what I saw from Drew Lock. I mean, he came in.
Let's talk about that for a minute, for sure.
And did a good job. I mean, he was 2 for 6, so that's not great, but 2 of those came later. But
one of those 2 was that big, huge throw to Noah Fant, almost scored a touchdown.
A yard
so
short.
I mean, he got the job done. He led the team on a scoring drive when he had to come in and take over for a drive. So not much more you can ask for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just I liked what I saw. You 2 of 6 and you go, oh yeah, whatever. But he ran the offense, and he got some first downs with his legs, and did some good things. And so I think that overall, like, I liked what I saw from him, like him as the backup. Like, he did what you want your backup quarterback to do, and that's come in, not turn the ball over, move the ball at least a little bit, and give your team a chance to win. I think he thought he did his job.
Yeah, I thought overall the offense was disappointing in that I didn't think that the Giants did anything to affect our offense per se. They didn't create tons of pressure. They didn't really completely stuff our running game, although we had moments where we weren't picking up first downs and so forth. But the offense wasn't able to execute, and it came in like after halftime and really needed to put a drive together, had a turnover, had an opportunity, and just went 3 and out with some really bad play calls and bad plays. And it seemed like that, and that was one of the times I'd really noticed that Geno just wasn't in it. I mean, he just wasn't there, engaged in the offense at that moment. I thought, oh, that's not a good thing. And I thought that they really kind of lucked out in this game in the way that the offense just didn't show up. It scored 17 points in this game, if you don't count that pick 6. And we're very lucky and fortunate that Seattle did have those 11 sacks, did have those 3 turnovers, kept New York at 3 points. Because if New York had an opportunity to make a run in this game, make this game a little closer, it would have been a very interesting thing. You'd mentioned the idea that you thought Seattle could have exerted its will if it needed to or wanted to go and score on offense. I'm not so sure.
Really? I think they could have. I mean, I think that they were content to shorten the game with the running game, and even though the running game wasn't doing much, they weren't.
But you say that, but they only possessed the ball for 24 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
and New York had it for 36 and still had all those turnovers, and that's how lopsided it really was. If you think about it, all those sacks, all those those 3 turnovers, and New York still had the ball 36 minutes. That's how I thought ineffective Seattle's offense was. Seattle could have done a much better job helping its defense win this game, and it didn't.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'll give you that. They didn't turn the ball over. That's helpful. I do think that their hands were tied a little bit. I mean, that's a really good defensive front that the New York Giants have. And for them to go in at one point, I mean, for most of this game, Seattle had no starters in their position on the offensive line. They had 2 backup tackles, 2 backup or a backup guard. Their center moved over to guard so they could play a backup center. There were 0 guys on the starting lineup in their natural position.
That's crazy. And I'll be completely honest, as just a person casually watching a game, I don't think that you would have noticed. I mean, the offensive line did a adequate job to where they weren't the problem. I thought.
I would agree with that to an extent, but you look at what the help that Shane Waldron gave them, the number of tight ends that were in, the difficulty the running backs had getting out into patterns because they were always helping block, even if it's just to chip someone, and that kind of stuff. They did a lot to help Seattle's offensive line, which makes it harder because now you've got 2 receivers out against 6 guys in coverage, and that's just not going to end well typically. And so, I mean, considering the fact that they had no starters in their spot for most of the game, I thought they played really well. But that's a pretty big, considering, right?
Yeah. No, right.
And so I think that this team needs to get healthy. And now they go into a bye week.
Yeah, just so happens we got a bye.
Yep. But to see Haynes and Damian Lewis both carted off, they've already got the 2 guys out, the 2 tackles, and any
news at all on the severity of Jerron Reed on defense and then both those guys on offense?
No, as of recording, Pete hasn't come out and given us an update on it.
Well, we've got some time. So we've got a couple of weeks now, heading into this game. I thought there was a chance that Charles Cross would be able to play. They probably cautionarily kept him out, knowing that they had a bye week next week, give him that little extra time, have him come back 100%, potentially.
Well, he didn't practice this week, so they listed him as doubtful and not questionable, but he didn't practice all week. So if he's not ready to practice, he's not ready to get out and play. That's what Pete Carroll's going to do, because he's always more conservative with that than people give him credit for. But yeah, I mean, it's a matter of, I think they felt that they were going to be okay, that they had a game plan, and that Forsyth had done enough the week before that they felt okay not having him out there. Now, they were out of offensive linemen at the end of this game. Like, if they had another injury, they were going to be bringing in like
a tight end,
Will Disley,
to
play guard, or they were going to bring in a
defensive tackle.
Like
Miles Adams.
Miles Adams would have to come over and play guard. That's where they were in the depth. So they need these guys to get healthy. They need to figure this out. They gotta, they gotta get some healthy bodies in there for the next game. But all of that said, the fact that you look at how Bradford has played in the last 2 games, given he didn't get a lot of run in the preseason and kind of was disappointed. We expected him to push for a job and he never really did, but now he's already been thrown in there and he's done pretty well. Olotimi's looked good. He's done well. Both backup tackles have been competent. I think we need to point out like that depth happens because of really good coaching. And after years of watching Tom Cable coached lines in Seattle, the fact that they've got a good offensive line coach that can get good stuff out of guys is it's incredible. It's definitely something that I'm looking at and going, okay, this is what I wish the Seahawks had for years. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. It's, yeah, I really like the coaching job, all around. I think Shane Waldron's been really adaptable, considering the challenges that he's had, figuring out the blocking assignments, maybe paring down the play calling just a little bit to move the tight ends into 13 personnel more often, and have the running backs stay in a little longer than usual, and just kind of disrupts everything. It'd be nice to see this offense really get into a flow, get everyone healthy, have Drake Young come back, potentially after the bye, have D. Eskridge back after week 6, and kind of let this thing go a little bit. It just seems like it's just been fits and starts as opposed to something that's just been a machine. And they've had glimpses of really spectacular individual performances, but the whole thing really hasn't come together yet. And, last game they scored over 30 points. They scored 24 points here, 17 on offense. It looked like they left points on the board here. Yeah, obviously, Jason Myers is having issues kicking straight, and
the kicks
which I don't understand.
Weird.
It is.
They were coming
like how many times has he pushed that thing this year?
I don't know, but they were coming off his foot and they're like immediately taking like a right hand turn, like halfway, and it's not like the typical hook that you'll
like
see
a
from
knuckleball
right-handed kickers. It was like a knuckleball. It's just coming off his foot weird, and I don't like it. I mean, it was a long kick, and they're in New York. The ground was wet, and there was some wind. But come on, like, he's better than that. And I don't know what's going on. Hopefully they can get him fixed here over the bye week too.
So, it's going back to the coaching thing for a second. So like Andy Dickerson and Shane Waldron came over from the Rams a couple of years ago, and Dickerson started out as a run game coordinator, moved into that role as offensive line coach. And man, there's just something different. I mean, Seattle really hasn't had a very competent offensive line for a while. You've really paid attention to this. You kind of can speak to this more than I can.
Mike Solari is known as one of the league's like really good
sure he is. Yeah.
Offensive line coaches. And that's who Dickerson replaced. But the increase in what you're getting out of guys, especially backups, the fact that they're getting in and doing their job and looking competent is crazy. I mean, what he's doing is phenomenal. And like I said, and that's compared to a guy which is known around the league as being one of the better offensive line coaches out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to say enough about the job he's been doing.
I really have enjoyed watching Bradford and Olotimi play. Bradford just really hasn't allowed too many mistakes overall. I don't know what the exact stats are. I don't know what his rating is on Pro Football Focus or whatever. That doesn't really matter. What I'm seeing is a guy that kind of has moments where he dominates on run blocking, and then he holds his own on the interior when he's pass blocking as well. And then Olotimi, it's so seamless you barely even know he's in there. That they've made that switch and that transition. and he just does such a great job. It's kudos to Andy Dickerson and company, but those players as well.
At this point, with all of the injuries at guard and everything, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't just put Oluwatimi in as the starter, and had Evan Brown as a guard, and just given those guys the reps in those positions at during practice.
So are you talking about Damian Lewis just being out?
I was thinking more along the lines of Phil Haynes.
Well, I mean, what's going on with Bradford?
Would you rather have Bradford or Oluwatimi in there?
Both. Honest answer going forward. I think you got to keep Bradford going. I think that, here's the deal. Does Phil Haynes or Anthony Bradford give you a better opportunity to run the ball and protect your quarterback? I'd say it's kind of a draw, at least so far anyway.
So you should go with the young
give
player.
Give it to the young kid. He's playing. That's your future. Now Oluwatimi and Brown at center, that's a different story. Obviously, there's intricacies there. There's line calls. Who knows what's going on in the background in practice and so forth. But again, here's an opportunity that's, you've got a young player that's the future, obviously. He may end up earning that job, over time. Not necessarily because Brown is not doing anything wrong. It's because Oluwatimi is just really solid. And then Damian Lewis has been a little injury prone. And so depending on what this injury is today, and how long that takes, they could have another iteration on this offensive line come, when Cincinnati comes to town.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at with Damian Lewis, when he's out there, he's been good. And I wouldn't want to be to give up on him and just be like, we're just going to go because
right.
Occasionally you get banged up, because when he's out there, he's good. But it's nice that you have guys like Evan Brown.
Damian Lewis is also in a contract year, by the way.
I know. I'm just saying it's nice that you have guys like Evan Brown
telling our listeners
who can step in for Damian Lewis when he does get hurt. But when he's healthy, I'd rather have Lewis in there. He's a really good run blocker and a really good player.
So I thought DK Metcalf had a good game today, and Tyler Lockett had an okay game. I thought he played well, and Jigba's still struggling to kind of get open in space and pick up any yards after catch. I know that they're trying to give him opportunities. It's just not working so far. So something to monitor.
It's hard to get him the ball when you only have 15 completions in a game.
51 total plays run.
15 completions.
Yeah, I know.
That's it. They completed 15 passes.
So why? I mean, we had 3 turnovers, so we had 3 extra possessions in this game. It's just not, something's just not going right.
One of them doesn't count because it was a pick six. And one of them, they got the ball and, turned it into a quick score. So it wasn't like they had a full possession. It was just a little bit there. I mean, so.
We also forced 5 punts though. It's just, yeah. I'm a little frustrated and I don't know exactly where to pin it. Although we won this game 24-3, I'm not complaining. Love the win, love the team effort, all that kind of stuff. There's just an opportunity, I think, there that we just didn't take advantage of. We could have probably had 40 points on this team.
They didn't have 40 points.
That's true, but we had an opportunity to kind of stretch our legs on offense and kind of dial it in and make it work and figure it out without taking too many chances and turning the ball over.
With an injured quarterback and 0 starters on your offensive line, you want to stretch it out.
Well, how injured was Gino? We don't know. But your thought process on the offensive line, yeah, they've been playing pretty good, actually. They deserve to kind of be on the field a little bit more. I don't know. The 3 of 12 on third down efficiency, Pete's going to look at that. That's going to be where he focuses, I think, as far as tomorrow is concerned. He's going to want that to improve. He's going to love the defensive effort, obviously. There weren't a lot of plays that you can look back on and say, oh, I wish we could have that back. Maybe a couple of the Daniel Jones runs, maybe a couple of plays where they picked up a third down conversion or something. But overall, they played really well. I was a bit concerned about how they handled themselves. You mentioned Geno Smith. I think DJ Dallas got in a couple of pushing things. He got shoved once. I thought that was egregious.
I mean, that should have been a flag when he got.
I think so.
When that happened. I mean, really, to me, it was the Geno stuff that bothered me. The DJ Dallas one felt like it was the Giant player being an ass. And then if you look at the one that Bradford got in down near the goal line, he had the guy with a hold of his face mask and was basically yanking his head off. And so he pushed back, as he should. I mean, at some point you're going to get your neck hurt if you don't get control of that. So I didn't have a problem with that. And then the other one was when Geno got hurt because of that really cheap shot tackle, and his offensive lineman came to his defense. And that's a good thing. You want to see that. You want to see those guys come in and stand up for their quarterback. That's a respect issue.
No, so agreed.
I other than Geno's, like, just taking it to the Giants players between plays and coming out of, when he came onto the field, and other than that kind of stuff, that stuff didn't really bother me this game. And I know you might be like, because Metcalf and company had the problems in the first week, and then there's been kind of that underlying like, this is going to be a problem, and then you see what's going on here. But overall, like, if I just look at it just this game, Geno's stuff is the only one that really bothered me.
Agreed. Yeah, and there were so many other positives. I think that we need to kind of leave it at that. I mean, there was Drew Lock coming in and leading a touchdown drive when he needed to. And he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't panic. He didn't get, Shane Waldron put him out there right away and had 6 pass attempts in that drive. He completed 2 of them, but one of them was that big one to Noah Fant. And then Geno played well enough in spots to take care of business. Didn't turn the ball over. Avoided a nice sack one time and completed a touchdown pass, I believe, as well, to DK Metcalf, where he rolled out and that was a great pass. That was one of the best passes I've seen Geno make. Just threaded the needle right in there on the edge of the end zone. And then, my goodness, all the sacks, all the pressures. When we weren't sacking, we were pressuring. I mean, I'd be very, very curious to find out how many pressures and quarterback hits we had to go along with the sacks. I mean, that was a 3-game total. If I've ever seen one. I mean, that was just crazy.
That was crazy. And we'll see what the final stats come back on pressure rates. But honestly, like, Aikman was commenting on what happened when he was playing, and there was a game when he had 11 sacks, and he made it clear, like, he was yelling at people and he was mad, and there were a lot of things said, and you didn't see a lot of that from Daniel Jones until the end. But honestly, Jones should have been pissed off at the effort that his teammates gave him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a thumping, 11 sack thumping. A franchise record, Seahawks franchise record. I think the old record was 8. And we had that at the end of the third quarter. Remarkable, just remarkable. I mean, it's good to see these guys come alive. It was one of my keys of the game that I mentioned in the preview show was getting to the quarterback, getting the pressures. You'd mentioned pressures is a stat basically, and it's just as important.
Pressure is production. If you look at like passer
pressure
rating,
is production,
completion percentage, and yards per attempt, and every stat, every player is worse under, like every quarterback is worse under pressure than they are when they have time. Pressure is production. You're making the opposing quarterback worse by getting pressure.
How do you
Will they
feel
still
now?
complete passes? Sure, but you're still making them worse.
Granted, this was the Giants, and obviously they've got some major problems. They had a similar outing against Dallas. They had a similar outing against the 49ers. Now the Seahawks did the same thing to them. They've been outscored 63-3 at home. But what do you think of this Seahawks team now, 3-1?
I like what we're seeing. I first week had me worried, but they beat a good Lions team. They beat a couple of bad teams, which you're supposed to do. Now they get into the meat of their schedule when things get hard. And I feel better now than I did after week 1, that's for sure. But they need to keep going.
So they've got a bye week here.
Yep, they got to get healthy.
In week 5, that's going to help them get healthy. They don't come back and play a game until October 15th. That's Seahawks at Bengals. The Bengals are currently 1-3. Then the Cardinals come to town. Then the Browns are visiting the Seahawks. And then we're into November, and we go to the Ravens, who are also like 2-win team this year so far. A little underperforming. Commanders are 2-2. That's next. Then it's the Rams again. That's a revenge game. I almost guarantee a win in that game. And then the schedule gets really hard. Seahawks, Eagles, Titans, Steelers. That'll be something. Cowboys. Well, first 49ers, Cowboys, then 49ers again, Eagles. That's going to be something. But you know what? There's a good chance right now, looking at this schedule, where we are favored in every game until that 49er game on November 23rd.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it comes down like this game against the Bengals. They're 1-3, but that's still a good team. I think that I think they will rebound and be in a playoff hunt down the stretch. And so that's one where I'm looking at and I'm like, I don't know. But the rest of, until that 49ers game, they should be favored in all of them. Mm-hmm. When that 49ers game comes around, you got 4 straight games against probably the 3 best teams in the NFC.
We could be, dare I say it, we could be 9-1 heading into that 49ers game, and the 49ers could be 10-0. And that could be epic. Just saying. I mean, the 49ers look unbeatable. I will say that. I watched them. They look
really damn
formidable.
Good.
Yeah. Purdy's the real deal too. I don't know. I don't care what anybody else says. That guy can throw the ball. He can make the plays. He's competent. He doesn't have a jittery bone in him. Mm-mm. So, and
he just makes really good, quick decisions. That offense, Shanahan's offense, doesn't require him to have a monster arm or do anything crazy. Just run the offense and run it as it's drawn up. Go through your progressions and your reads, and
just get the ball to McCaffrey.
get the ball to the right guy, guy who's open. And when the guy who's open has the talent of McCaffrey, good things are going to happen. I mean, it's and that defense is tough. That defensive front is tough.
I saw teams moving the ball on them, but they didn't. They when they have that sense of urgency, they really can turn it on. They look like Seattle's defense looks like today. Only when they want to turn it on, they just dominate. They just go from like, okay, we're going to give you 3 or 4 yards, march down the field a little bit. We're going to, we figure we're going to get a turnover, or we're going to, sack you on 3rd down and force you into a field goal or whatever. That's the kind of arrogance that they have. But on offense, they can really kind of zip you really quick. Like if they can get their defense to turn the ball over and give you an extra possession, that offense can score like 14, 17 points on you in like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. Fun season though. I like what the Seahawks are doing. They're 3-1. They should be 4-0. They should have came in more prepared for that Rams game. That just is really unfortunate. That could come back to bite them, especially with the 49ers looking like they're going to be in a position to win this division. That game is going to be looming large, I think, at the end of the season. So
you've got to keep up, and that's definitely set them back.
All right. I think that we've wrapped this game up. Keith, the New York Giants, no, they are not good. They are not good at all. They were a playoff team last year.
Yeah, their defensive front is still really good. I like Kayvon Thibodeau and the rest of that line. I think that's a good defensive line. I don't know if there's talent elsewhere on that team.
It's not on the offensive line.
Certainly not on the offensive line. I mean, Saquon when he's healthy, but is he healthy? Is he ever going to be healthy again? Yeah, I mean,
I saw some gutsiness out of Daniel Jones tonight.
Oh,
I kind of felt sorry for him. You know, it's hard to feel sorry for opposing teams and whatnot, but I got to the point where I was like, geez, take him out.
Yeah, I was wondering why he was still in there because the Seahawks were just killing him. And he wasn't they weren't coming back. But you're right. He's standing in knowing he's going to get killed to deliver a pass. That'll gain 3 yards because
I've never seen a team so defeated like in the third quarter on literally a 18-point game, like 17 points, 18 points. They just knew that they were not going to be able to come back.
Yep.
It was an interesting psychological thing to watch.
That Witherspoon pick six was a backbreaker. They were done.
Yeah.
Half of those guys would have gotten up and just gone to the locker room if the coach had let them. I mean, all the fans left. So it's hard to blame the players, but yeah, they looked defeated early in the game. And you're right, it's like 17 points at the time, but you're saying until you added that caveat at the end, I'm like, well, I can remember one. It was a Super Bowl and it was the Denver Broncos who looked defeated in the third quarter.
They did that opening kickoff return by Percy Harvin. No Seahawks fan will forget that. That was the greatest moment in franchise history because that was the moment that ensured victory. And so it was very sweet.
No coming back. I mean, you had the big lead and you'd shut them down, but it was like this historic offense, and you're worried, like, can the Seahawks keep putting up points because Peyton Manning's going to start, lighting up the scoreboard, and Percy Harvin was like, "No, watch this," and at that point, you're like, "All right, this game's over." Yeah,
fun stuff. All right, let's get out of here. All right. Find Keith on Twitter. You can find him at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. You can find the show at Seahawks Playbook, your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube now has podcasts available. Basically any podcast platform that you can choose. And then we've got our own YouTube channel. If you're watching the show, you know that. If you're not, if you're listening, check out our YouTube channel. Go over there, search Seahawks Playbook Podcast, and hit that subscribe button when you find it. Make sure you get our shows in your feed every time we put out a new show, and we are trying to do 3 a week, even in the off season. So stay with us all year, and in the off season, we do turn our attention to the draft. So we're very draft centric as we move through February through the draft too. So anyway. We've had a great evening, and thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.